Wow, we already have two people waiting for me. That's so cool. I'm glad I'm not late. Who do we have here? We'll give it a couple minutes before we get started, but as a basic overview, today we're going to be talking about melodies. We're going to talk about why you hum things, how you can create things that other people might hum. We're going to categorize them. We are going to put a little toolbox together for ourselves to think about how we can express ourselves and how we can understand the music that we listen to a little bit better. If you really get into it, there are so many people who, maybe you might call them snobby or something. They might say, oh, I don't like that kind of music, because they might have a reason, right? So the question is can you explain a reason why you do or don't like something? Do you enjoy a melody because of the movement? Do you enjoy the melody because it goes ups, the directions it goes, the notes it chooses, the rhythm it chooses? There are lots of things. There are lots of things that can define why a melody is good or bad, but it is an opinion ultimately. So if you have these sorts of things in your arsenal, how to talk about music, you can write better melodies. You can improve melodies that somebody else wrote. You can make money by doing something that people want to pay for. You could even, ultimately express what you really want to express. You're trying to write a song, you're trying to give a message out about heartbreak, or about how the world needs to change, or how everything's wonderful. You can use these ideas to craft that song. And we're going to have a whole week of streaming. It's going to be tonight melodies. Tomorrow we will talk about rhythm. We'll talk about rhythm tomorrow night. We'll talk about scales and keys and like music theory, but we're going to keep it very basic, so that even if you don't know exactly what I'm talking about, you'll still know when to peg something, like in terms of keys and scales. Thursday, we're going to talk about form and how you organize your music. And then Friday, I'm going to have a special guest for sure on Friday. Mr. Spencer Vandeveer will be discussing with me music versus noise. And it's going to be a very good, opinionated conversation. Anyhow, I might get us started here in just a minute. We will see if we can get any more people on from the Facebook that I just posted. How does everything look and sound, by the way? Everything going pretty good? Not too quiet? I just viewed the Facebook feed and it looked like everything was going pretty good on there. Although I believe it ended early. I believe it at about the 40-minute mark, it cut off. So maybe YouTube won't do that to me. Oh, thank you, Sophia. Gosh, you come back for round 2, huh? Thank you, Laura. Ooh, who's the mystery third? Oh, well, we'll let it be a mystery. Go ahead and chat to me. I would love to hear maybe melodies or types of music that you have a fascination with. That way, maybe I can bring it back later in the week. Right? Yeah, it was about 5 minutes, just basically of wrap up. And I'm thinking I will put that video together and maybe edit it, or maybe just leave it as is, and maybe put it up online just for people to watch. Maybe I'll edit this in along with it. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get started here. It's 5 minutes past. One of the first things that we need to do is warm ourselves up. Of course, you have a voice and you use it all day long. You usually don't sit like a monk, right? With nothing to say, like for discipline, right? You're talking all day long. But to really use your voice in a musical sense, you need to have real good control of it. Now, you've practiced all the phonemes that you know, ah, eh, e, ah, ah. You've practiced those since you were a child. But practicing the way that you articulate is something that at a certain point, maybe you stop focusing on. Enunciation, very important. To be able to speak quickly and still be understood, also a skill. Rappers make money on that, right? So we are going to warm up our voices. what I would like you to do is get very used to breathing in a controlled manner. So what we'll do is we will breathe in slowly, take in all the air that we can, and then we're going to stop and hold it. And then we're going to let all that air out slowly in the most controlled manner that we can. And we'll see if we can pump up the stakes on that afterwards. But let's get started with a nice big, deep breath. Pretend like your stomach is a big balloon. It's going to expand along with your chest. Your shoulders should probably go up a little bit. Your whole body, like a frog, is just... All right, so here we go. Breathe in. Hold it. Now, most of the time people say that that feels very good. Just to do that, just to breathe in and out really deep, just feels good. Let's do it again. Breathe in. Hold it. There you go. And we'll do it for a third time. Make sure you're filling up way down here, what we call your diaphragm. That diaphragm pulls downward. And then as you fill up, you'll also expand. You have muscles all over here that can help you poof out. So let's do it again. Hold it. Excellent. So this is step one. We have to control our breath to control our voice. The voice does not control the breath. The air passing over your vocal cords creates the sound. You run out of breath, you run out of voice. It's as simple as that. So the more you practice your breath, the better you can control your voice. One last thing we're going to do before we move on is we're going to give a nice ah sound. We're going to make that ah sound very loose, very light. You don't want to damage anything in your throat by pressing it and forcing it to do something. You want to ask it a question and it will promptly tell you if it's ready or not. So we're going to make a nice light and loose ah sound at the end of our in-breath. Here we go. Hold it. Ran out of breath there. How long did your ah last for? Did you beat mine? Some people beat me all the time. I don't know what it is. Maybe they just got bigger lungs. I don't know. I got to do more cardio, I guess. Let's do it again. We'll get the feel of it. We'll get that nice light and loose ah, and our voice will be ready to go. Breathe in. Hold it. Right. And best thing to do is whenever you're getting to the end of those ahs and you're starting to maybe lose your air, you don't want to sacrifice the quality of your control. If you're running out of air, you need to know when you're out of air. There's a certain point where you just get like just a little sound. It is not musical. It's not what you mean to do. So try very hard to know, when is that red line coming up? When is my breath insufficient to create the sounds that I'm looking for? You get to know yourself. You get to make better music. One last time, Breathe in, and we get an ah. There you go. Hopefully you're being very loose and light and very gentle with your voice. Hopefully your voice does not feel scratchy or harsh right now. If you're able to use it very gently, you can use that voice for forever, for hours and hours and hours on ends, and you can make it powerful, but not forceful, not damaging. So wonderful. Great. Our voice is warmed up. We're ready to do all sorts of things. You can make a siren sound. Go ahead. Maybe a lower siren sound. Lower. Lower. Take it from that very low point and move it all the way up to your high point. Now take it from the top, bring it down. There you go. Now we're starting to really get in touch with our voice. You'll start to know how high you can go, how low you can go, how much breath you need to do all of these things. It just takes practice, 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 lots of it. And if you join me for this week, we'll get plenty of practice and you'll have these skills for forever. You can do them anytime you like. Voice is warmed up, hands and fingers. We need these to clap. We need these to create a beat. So I hope your fingers are nice and wiggled out. Got your, well, these two kind of come together. So your pinky and your ring finger, wiggle those. Yeah, backwards, forwards, up and down, right? Middle fingers. First finger, thumbs. Are those fingers? Ooh, philosophical questions here in the music lesson. You can clap your hands now, right? Got your wrists, elbows, arms. Do the wave. Woo. I got to be careful around here. I'll hit something. All right, awesome. So you should be nice and loosened up right now. We're going to create a beat. We're going to create a pretty slow beat. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, are you beginning to feel that beat? Can you feel that emphasis that happens very regularly? That's called a beat, a heartbeat, the heartbeat of our music. You need to be in touch with that just as much as with your voice. You need to be able to propel your music forward with the right beat. Think about things that move slowly. Syrup, ice melting, things that move slowly, maybe a predator stalking prey in the grass, things that move slowly. Go ahead and chat one to me. What moves slowly? Why would we want to use a slow beat in our music? I don't see any chats, but I'll move on. What about a fast beat? What would we use a fast beat for? Would we do jumping jacks, right? Doing jumping jacks, exercising, maybe running in your car, on the highway. What are things that move quickly? We're trying to equate music with the things that you naturally see in your everyday life because the music came before all of those things. Taxes. There you go. You could write a song with a really slow beat that's about doing your taxes. I love it. So we have our beat, and I'm going to do a call and response with you. I want you to begin clapping your hands with me and repeat after me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and great. And we'll stop there. So what we've done is we've created a beat, a slow beat, albeit. We've divided the beats into more pieces. So even though our beat is a bit slow, we can still fit notes into the beat. We can fit as many notes as we want into the beat, but we must decide what the beat is first. So now that we've decided on a beat, a rather slow beat, we've warmed up, we've divided it, we can keep pushing it, right? Rumpety tumpety, rumpety tumpety, rumpety tumpety, rumpety tumpety. We can keep going to more and more sounds past 6 to 10, 12, 16, what have you. So these are all parts. These are all things that go together, and I want to warm you up with them every single class that we do here. So Tuesday, we'll do another class. Tomorrow's class especially is on rhythm. So we're going to be diving more into the different beats, speeds, heartbeats, so on and so forth. Make sure you join me for the rest of the week. So we have our beat. We've got it all divided up, and we're going to start to feel that heartbeat in every division in between. We're done with warm-ups. Let's get on to melodies. The whole idea of this class today is to talk about how a melody is what it is. Why do we want to hum melodies? Why do we find them pleasurable? What's the emotional content, and how are they getting that emotional content into sound? There are no words. It comes with the sound first. So we're going to talk about a couple different melodies. Here is a treble clef and a staff. Don't get scared. If you don't know how to read music, is fine. You're going to start learning today. I'm not going to expect you to know what I'm talking about here, but you're going to start to understand what I mean whenever I tell you a note is going up or down. So let's start with the treble clef. All right, we're going to put 5 lines on it. All right, if you've ever heard of Every Good Boy Does Fine, that would be all of your lines. We give them alphabet names. Every good boy does fine, E, G, B, D, F. And the space spells face. That's my favorite, personally. So melodies. Melodies can go up, they can go down. Let me write you a downward melody. All right, so what we have here are a couple of notes that have been put on all the lines, or well, 3 of the lines, and they're all going downward. That's just like whenever we used our voice and we went, ooh, downward, right? La la la, la la la, la la la, la la la. We're talking about movement downward. I like to use the song This Little Light of Mine. You can sing This Little Light of Mine in many, many different ways. I'll give you 2 today. This first version would be, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. We're starting on a note, and then we're going down and down again. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Right? There we have a downward motion. How does that make you feel? What do those sounds make you? What associations do you have with those sounds moving downward? This little light of mine. Go ahead and sing it. It's much easier to feel the feeling whenever you sing it. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. What are things in your life that go downward? We could talk about gravity, right? Talk about things falling. You can chat to me. I'd love to hear back from you. Things that go downward. Maybe rolling down a hill. Avalanche. Going down a staircase. Maybe going into a basement. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Right? So here we have a downward melody. Maybe you can think of some examples, maybe something in everyday life. But let's now go upward. Let me write the downward on here first. Alrighty, so we got some downward motion. Our melodies can go down. They can also go up. Your melody could go upward, and it'll give you a different effect. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Hopefully you hear the difference. Hopefully you can pick out that it's not quite so cut and dry that it's always going upwards. Sometimes you move downward, but continue a pattern upwards. It's just a concept. You don't normally see these concepts in 100% pure form. Normally it is a mixture of concepts that you actually end up hearing that actually makes the music sound interesting. If you just have upward motion, you're just hearing a scale. You're just hearing, it becomes maybe a little too monotonous. So upward would be maybe the reverse of what we see here. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Compared to this little light of mine. I think you get the point. If you have any examples that you could share with me, I'd love to talk about it. Put the band, the song name, that sort of thing. That way, maybe I can do some research and I can bring them back to you later on this week. But there we go. We have downward motion and upward motion. Think about how that makes you feel. How does the downward motion make you feel compared to the upward motion? Last class, we had downward motion. Yes, feeling much like falling. Maybe like like we mentioned before, an avalanche or tumbling downward. But think about maybe another nuance to this. Maybe a relaxed feeling could go along with your downward melodies. Just like This Little Light of Mine, I feel like it's more relaxed than it is feeling maybe like falling or like anything that has any sort of negative connotation. Seems more peaceful, which would be a positive connotation to this downward motion. This little light of mine can help you, maybe like a kumbaya sort of sound to it. All right, so we've gone downward, we've got upward, which tends to make you feel maybe a little more energetic, right? Like taking off in that plane or climbing up that mountain. Maybe it's arduous, maybe it takes a lot of work, but maybe it's a hopeful climb. Mm-hmm. All right, so upward and downward. Now, the next example, I'm going to see if I can just squeeze in a couple extra words, a couple extra notes. Stemmed all these crazy today. Should have stemmed them all downwards. Anyhow, the next one would be a wavy melody. A wavy melody. I think it's intuitive. I think you can understand what that's supposed to mean. It's just basically a mixture of downward and upward motion to create something that kind of centers somewhere. You know, maybe the center is a little off, a little up, a little down. But the idea is that there's kind of if you're a business person, a scatter plot where you've got all these dots everywhere, but then you just try and find a line that most closely associates with all of those dots. So we're creating a wave, a contour, where our melody will go up and down and up and down, and it tends to draw its interest from that sort of motion. Best example I could give you is the Star Spangled Banner. So sorry to put you on the spot, but we've loosened up our voice, so go ahead and give it a try. I probably won't get it quite right either, so go ahead and play along with me. The Star Spangled Banner. You can do it. Pretend like you're out there in the middle of your football stadium, and you see all these people, and they're all waiting for you, and you've got your big smile and your beautiful dress or suit on, and you've got the microphone, and you start. Whoa, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming? All right, just in the very beginning, we've got a clear distinction of wavy, right? We go down and then we go way back up, even higher than the original starting point. We go even higher and then we bring it down again. Oh, say, brought it down. Can you see? And then we go even higher. By the dawn's early light. So what we have is a lot of motion up and down, not a real clear upward motion between all the notes. The notes they're waving. So we've got downward and upward mixed together. And this is very good for whenever maybe you have a lot to say, a lot of words to put in there, or maybe you need to put a lot of notes into your song. You can allow it to wave around a particular tone and still keep it interesting. It's not just one tone, it's tones around that one tone. And last but not least, I'd like to talk about angular melodies. And angular, you can think of as, think of angles in anything in life. You have something, and then with respect to it, it might be way off angle, or it might be very close. Might be in that direction or all the way. Angular is basically to say that your notes will have a fairly unpredictable procedure to them. So I'm going to go ahead and alter what we have here. I'm going to actually alter one or two notes, and we'll see if we can get something angular out of this. All right, I'm going to leave that little squiggle in there because that's going to help me get the angular motion that I'm looking for. So here's what I'll do. All right, so if you look at this, it is somewhat conforming to a pattern, but in most cases, it is kind of stepping out of a pattern and being quite unpredictable. We have large jumps between the notes. This would be a high note, and this would be a quite low note compared to it, and then a note very close to it. So almost the same, and then a little skip below the note that we originally sang, and then a skip back to the note we just came from. You can see that little squiggle there. And then continues upwards. I could maybe make this more angular by bringing this note down more, but then that might give it a bit of a downward angle. So we might classify it as a downward melody instead of an angular melody. Best example I can give you is a type of melody that tends to be a bit aggressive, or at least it draws a lot of attention to each individual note because the notes are so far separated. For singers, angular melodies are quite difficult because to hear the note in your brain and to control your voice to jump to those notes is the whole art of the craft. So somebody who might call themselves a singer would probably be able to nail an angular song or melody. That's why something like the Star Spangled Banner contains a lot of angular elements. It's not just wavy. It has downward, it has upward, it has all of these elements. But this is how we can classify and talk about it. So a singer would be possibly very good at these angular melodies. But for the most part, I would say strings and maybe keyboard instruments will be the most suited for an angular melody. Strings in particular, because when you have an open string, a string that you don't hold down. So let's say I have my thickest string. I play my thickest string, and then I fret other notes along the fretboard to get my melody to jump up and down and up and down. Here'll be a easy example to follow, something like this. Notice how my notes would maybe climb upward, so maybe we would classify it as an upward motion, but I continue to return to my open string, my lower sound. I could go downward. Or I could mix them up. Whenever it comes to the more aggressive styles of music, that would be the best example I could give you in terms of angular melodies. So how does an angular melody make you feel, right? These notes jumping out at you. Maybe you were to orchestrate them on different instruments and have an instrument play a really low note and some other instruments playing higher notes as part of one melody. but on different instruments. Let's say you had a tuba, bum, and then you got some flutes, ba-da, bum, ba-da. Now you've got something of an angular melody because those notes are spaced apart and they tend to make these large leaps and don't have an exact direction of where they're going. They keep bouncing back and forth, maybe pinball style. Balance issues. Yeah, I mean, that could be a thing about it. Most certainly need balance. But one thing about these angular melodies is if you're using a string instrument, you'll be actually rather grounded because you'll be playing that one low note all the time, and it'll ground you into the song while you add in all of your extra notes. That's, you know, in the muse and like kind of shredder heavy metal kind of style. Like, gosh, wouldn't Sweet Child of Mine would be very much like an angular momentum. And I keep saying momentum because that's such a popular way to follow up angular melody. Yeah, grounded for sure. But then all the chaos that's happening around it. So these are all examples of melodies. Can you think of a downward melody? Can you think of an upward melody, a wavy, an angular melody, one that you listen to already? I'm sure you do. I'm sure there are examples in the music that you listen to. Downward and upward movements are great. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Very good for getting that pep and getting that energy. And if you want to get the Kumbaya, my Lord, Kumbaya, that's actually quite upward, isn't it? Kumbaya. Downward melodies. A lot of those romantic kind of R&B bluesy type songs will move downward. You might get something along the lines of, you know, you get the idea, moving downward. La Vie en Rose. I'll have to look into that. Excellent, excellent. I know that that's a popular song that I probably have heard before, but haven't taken the time to really listen. Yeah, so hopefully you would be able to find an example of each of these types of melodies. And if you are able to find an example, categorize it, analyze it, you would be able to write a melody of your own using some of the little techniques and tricks that the melody that you really, really enjoy uses. Get the feeling, understand the feeling, and then understand how the feeling got there. That's the whole point of being creative. Take what exists and rearrange it to express what you need to express. So we are about done with these melodies. This is the breakdown right here. Talk about 4 melodies. We have examples of all of them. This little light of mine, this little light of mine. Whoa, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Wavy, upward, downward, angular, like the Guns N' Roses. Angular for a singer. Again, I just can't do it. So I'd have to find somebody that was a really good singer that could help me out with that one. But the idea is notes that kind of jump all over the place and kind of don't have a real easy straight line to them or even a wave to them. Take a moment, write yourself a melody, hum something, anything. Don't even think about this, but hum something and find out, what did you just do? Did you make an upward hum? Did you make a downward hum? Did you wiggle around a particular area? Or did you do something angular where you wanted to hear like, ooh, oh, wow, ooh, ooh, wow? What do you come up with? Matter of fact, I would love for you to record. Go ahead and record something for yourself. I would love for you to post that. Put it on my Facebook, put it on your YouTube channel, tag me in it, what have you. I would love to hear your melodies if you come up with one. And of course, whenever you do it, tell me, what kind of melody did you use? Was it wavy? Was it up, down, angular? Beautiful. I love that one. Do do la la la. Oh man, that's classic. You could also think about other classic examples of melodies like Take Me Out to the Ball Game, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. You've got angular elements to them with their big jumps. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. You have all these elements that maybe you can't completely categorize it into just one, but there is a logic. There's something that makes that melody so good, your brain just understands it at a basic level. Did you hum something yet? You better go ahead and get a video or get a picture of it. Write it down, do a voice memo or something. Well, all right. I think I'm going to go ahead and start with my wrap up, but here's the kicker to the whole thing. We've talked about a melody and how a melody can be very, very pleasing. You'll want to hum it and it can elicit certain feelings from you and other people. But what about multiple melodies at once? Is it possible? Those of you that have studied classical music or really listened close to some types of pop music, you could get into something called counterpoint, which is basically when you have multiple melodies running all at once. If you've heard of Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, he is the master of doing counterpoint. He's got all these organ, what they call organ fugue. A fugue is where we take all of these different melodies and we intertwine them, and we use some loose rules, but in using those rules, we come out with something very pleasing to the ear. That being said, counterpoint really went out of fashion in the Baroque era, when Bach was composing. Music was becoming such a science. It was becoming so easy to manipulate and to understand that people were really pushing themselves, to challenging themselves to make like the most complex music they possibly could. And so we got out of the Baroque era into the classical era, where you're more familiar with maybe Mozart or Beethoven or Haydn or some of those types of composers. They were moving away from counterpoint because it was just going out of style, I suppose. But me personally, I still love to hear fugues. I love the way that melodies can interweave with each other, layer on top of each other. So I have prepared a tiny sample of what multiple melodies could sound like whenever they're layered together. So this will be somewhat familiar to you. This is going to be Pachelbel's Canon in D in C. So let me see if I can rig this up for you. We'll listen to it a little bit, and then we'll call it a night. I appreciate it. Chat any questions to me that you may have. Make sure you tag me in a video where you've created a melody and uploaded it, or send that to my email. Any of these things are okay. I would love to hear back from you. So let me see what I can do here about this Canon in D. All right, so we're going to start with something kind of angular, maybe a little bit wavy for our bass line, for our lowest melody. So this is one melody. and it's quite angular. You can hear how the notes don't really have an exact direction. We'll add another melody. This one's more wavy than the last one. Definitely not angular. We got the rhythm a little wonky there, but this one is definitely more downwards. Then we'll add the last one. One more time. All right, my apologies for getting the rhythm a little off there, but the idea is that you just heard 4 different melodies all at the same time. They were all being played in synchronicity, and they sounded good, you know? So the idea is that one melody is great. Having one real good melody is excellent. It's enough to get somebody humming, to enjoy their day, to think a little bit about what's happening, right? Music is very magical. If you can have one melody, why not 2? Why not 3? Why not 4? If you're able to write them and you're able to categorize them and understand them, then you know the tools you have to express yourself, and all the possibilities are open for you. But you got to have the tools. You got to have a way of understanding it. Maybe you've got an intuition for it. That's excellent. I don't. I need to learn what it takes to put a melody together, to really, really put together the melody that I want to put together. So thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for participating. Hopefully you clapped your hands and sang along with me as we went. I haven't heard any questions, so I guess we're all fairly clear. This video will be up for view in the future. So if you want to come back and view this video, just visit my channel. It'll be posted. So thank you so much. My name is Eric. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back Wednesday. I'll be back Thursday. I'll be back Friday. Same time here on YouTube, 6 o'clock on Facebook, and 8 o'clock on Twitch. It is currently 7:49, and I'm going to log out. Or I'll give you a minute just because I'm OCD, and I'll log out at 7:50. Don't pretend like you don't know me, Sophie. Thanks for logging in, Laura. Maybe we can talk melodies now. It's been absolutely excellent. I'm going to do my Twitch stream after this, and I'm thinking maybe, I don't think I'm going to have anybody on Twitch, to be honest, because I really didn't have much of a way of like marketing it, like in getting the word out. So I might just jam for my Twitch stream. I'm going to go ahead and log out now. Thanks again, y'all. That's okay, Sophie. It'll get better. Well, thank you. I'm going to go on to Twitch now and I'm going to see if I get anybody to log in with me over there. So thanks a lot. My name is Eric. I will be back in, I'll be back in 24 hours here on YouTube, and I'll be back on Facebook 1 hour earlier, 6 o'clock over here. So thanks a lot, y'all. Bye.